Hi guys. Right, I'm just going to give my hands a little clean now. When I start to work with the sheaths after they've, they get to more of this stage, I'll start to, be aware of, keeping things a bit cleaner and tidier and neater, and, I do smoke, and when I finish the fag, I always, like to wipe my hands and give them a bit of a clean and stuff. It's just something I've always done, and it keeps everything a little bit, the oils out your hands and stuff like that. I don't like to impart any of that type of thing on a sheath, so not that it make much. It's just, I'm just funny about certain stuff at the end of the day. Right, I'm just going to give this a quick stropping. Well, when we done the last video and I showed you how to, or whenever, with the sharpening, normally, like I say, whenever I start a project, I'll always resharpen this or my round knife, which is more, what I'll do more than likely. And like I say, I'll use this for the purposes of these. I know most people use these. Normally, if you get a good blade like a Stanley Max or a decent blade and you start sharpening that all the time, normally from that sharpening, just for that one particular sheath, a little stropping before you start doing any cutting again is enough just to bring that up just a little bit. But when you come to do your next project, always resharpen and start afresh with a brand new sharpening and all the rest of it. Like I say, it'll make a massive difference to your leather work, your fit and finish and the neatness. What I've done basically is I've used the front of the sheath, popped it on a piece of scrap. I've just drawn around that with a pencil. What we'll do is we'll cut that out now. If there's a straight line, it's hard for you to see the mark on this because I only go lightly. If there's a straight line, I'll take the ruler to that and cut that out first, and then always be, if maybe just go over just a little bit rather than just under. Don't cut this too small. If you can, always just cut it a little bit wider. You can always trim that back. If it's too short, you've got to cut a new piece out. And there's a lot of waste with welts because, I only need that little section in the middle. All that then, the rest is just more scrap. So, if you have to cut 2 or 3 of these out, you could probably have made a sheath with that. So, try and get this bit right if you can. Like I say, just go over a little bit if you've got to. When you're cutting, you want to hear that kind of just that, you should be able to cut 4mm leather like that with one pass, no problem at all. If I'm doing a very fine bit or I've got to come really close to an edge like that, rather than try and do it in one pass, sometimes it'll slide off or waver. I'll, 1, 2, 3, and just slowly keep going through it until I've got to the end. But with a bigger piece like this, your knife should be sharp enough to cut through that, no problem at all. If you're having to go through 2 or 3 times to cut it, then your knife that you use for your leather is not sharp enough. It needs to be sharper, and you will notice a difference in the way your stuff is if you get it just that little bit sharper. You really will. Okay, this is just slightly oversized. We'll go to the top of that line there. We'll just come to there. Very, very slightly oversized. We'll just chop that bit of waste out from the inside. Okay. Pop that there because we'll probably be needing that again when we come to do the other little bits. Normally you only have to take one complete welt out, and then the rest will be pieces down the sides for the feathering. So we'll just double check that again now, make sure I've not gone too it's pointless cutting it out if I have gone too short, which I haven't. So what we'll do is we'll go around that again. This time I'll go around it in pen to give me a definite. I like to do it with a pencil or a scratch awl normally, but the finer the tip of your pen, the better. because obviously if you I don't know, say if you went round with a Sharpie, the line's going to be way too thick, and it's not going to give you, unless you go to the inside of that line, you're going to be cutting everything too big or too small. So the thinner the pen for this type of stuff, or thinner the edge of the pencil, the better. Okay, you should be able to see now a little bit better as well what I've done. Okay, so I'll cut this out and then I'll show you how I go about working out the welt thickness and stuff. So I'll just cut this out now and we'll get this little bit sorted. Okay, nice. You want to try and keep this square your edge as possible, so that edge is square like that, you know, nice and straight. This is where a very sharp tool comes into its own. Also, you'll be able to just go around with one pass. It'll be nice and easy, you won't be fighting. You won't slip and make mistakes because your knife's not sharp enough. Okay. Okay. Right. Let's get rid of these little bits. Right, what we'll do now is we'll take a pair of wing dividers. I have quite a few smaller ones, and it's a kind of nice little bulky set, and you know, an X size down, and they're a great tool. Anyway, what we'll do is, there's my welt in size where we draw the knife on. What we'll do now is we'll marry this to that at its shortest point rather than the biggest point, because it gets thinner here. And what we'll do is we'll go literally just inside that, and the reason for that is you don't want it right up against the blade. You don't really want the knife actually, as you putting your knife back into the sheath, you don't want that knife to be rubbing on that welt itself as it's going in, because it's blunting the customer's knife all the time, every time it runs up against the leather. So you want to go just shy of it. You can do it that way with the dividers and figure out the small and then just go round, or if you've cut it out kind of pretty perfect, you know, when it's kind of neat and stuff, and what you can do is you can actually take the knife and we can draw round the knife itself again, and we can use that as the template as well, for because there's certain parts of this that are coming in a bit shorter and thinner, and it's the way the knife is, it's got to come back in a little bit more there. So I'm just going to concentrate on this a second, because this first welt needs to be right, and then everything else will follow after. So right, just looking at those two, roughly checking. Right, okay. We'll cut that line out as well, and we'll pop that on like that a minute. We're going to just drop that knife on there a sec, so I can have a little look at what I'm doing and see if it See if it looks about right. Okay, we can always trim once it's, you know, inside if we need to. Trim some more of the welt out inside. But for now, I'm going to go with this, and I'll just chop this out, the inside a second. Okay. Another little tip, if you're ever struggling to get into a tight corner to chop it out, because it's just too tight to get in there with this type of tool, or take your punch a hole there, and then you'll be able to cut away within that hole. And then you will still have that perfect point inside, but it will be easier just to run down into the hole. Right, let me show you what I mean. So what we'll do is, we've got a point that we need to get into there. You're struggling to get in with the knife, so we'll take the punch. We'll go just inside. There we go. We'll go just inside with the hole. You see? And then when you come to, you can literally put your knife then in the hole. And you will have your perfect cut out inside, still with your point, but the hole allows you to get the end of the knife in and cut away, and cut down to it without cutting over into that other piece. That's the inside that we've cut out. Always try and keep the same. If you can do all your welts from the same piece of leather as well, because you have varying thicknesses on the hide at different parts of it. Something else I could go over with you at another point. You know, if you can do all the welt out of sort of the same piece, you know, it's all the same then as well. It does help. What we'll do now is we'll just check this welt now. I'll just clean this punch up. Okay, just put these dividers back, get stuff out of my way because it drives me potty, and put the ruler back, put my hammer back. I'm just going to put my utility knife away a second. Okay, back to a clean workspace. Let's have a look how we're looking here. See if this marries up with these lines. Sometimes you'll mess these up and you'll just have to do them again. But if you have to do them again, do them again. Don't just leave them. You know, or you know, please don't have that mentality. It'll be all right. It's not a good thing. You know, it ain't all right. If it's not right, it's not all right. You know. If you have to do it again, just do it again. It normally doesn't take very long. And at least then, you know, when you've finished it, you'll have peace of mind and you'll know it's right. You'll feel a lot better for it after. Right, okay. Nice. Okay, let me just see how that sits with this. Okay, I'm quite happy with that. Don't know about you lot, I'll show you. This is where you're marking out and getting stuff just about right works out. Now, like I said, I went a little bit long on purpose. I'll show you why. Give me a second. Just get that lined up 1 second, I'll show you what I mean. I always tend to go just a little bit longer on the top two, the top of the welt. I'll show you why in a second. We'll just get a little clamp here a minute. Actually, we'll get a small one for less pressure so it doesn't mark. Okay, I'll show you what I mean. Actually, it's not too bad. It's not that far off at all, really. Sometimes what I'll do is, when I come to put this welt in, I'll leave just a little bit extra at the top so that I can draw around that again with a pen and trim it up absolutely perfect, because you don't want that welt real sticking out at the top. It's just going to look daft. You know what I mean? You don't, you know, you want all this nice and flush. So, but it's got to be flush down here as well. Everything's got to be at a 90. So we'll just lock that off a minute. And this is where I can do a test fit. I mean, we've got to have a couple more welts in yet, but okay, that ain't too bad at all. So what we'll do now is we'll take a pen, because we're going to dye these as well. That's another thing you'll need to do. We take a pen, make sure this is nice and straight at the end here, you know, it's not too far back. Probably could come down. This is why it's better to like flat on the table rather than in your hands. It'll give you a false indication of what things are like. You'll tend to, your hands will sort of move it in the right way rather than it being true. Okay. See, when I do that, the welt is literally, you know, you're talking half a mil, if that, not even that. I'll show you what I mean now. If I put the clamp on now, you'll see what I mean. You see how they're not over very much at all, because what you'll tend to do is you'll bend it, or when you pick it up, you'll always do it off the table, basically. It'll give you a better representation of what you have. Right, so what we'll do now, it will be a very minimal, if anything, of this welt to be adjusted. I'll take an even finer pen now. Very, very fine tipped pen. We'll just mark this again. And that little corner there needs just nipping off. And we'll sort these out. Okay, I'll show you. Okay, there's the very small little bits that I need to take off. So we trim these, and this then should be just about bob on. I've just trimmed off to them lines, just shy of them. I've always got just a little bit. I can always come back and recut. That old adage, I think, what is it, measure twice, cut once. Okay, let's see where we're at here now. We'll get that so it's perfect at the bottom first. We'll take the little clamp again, clamp that clamp on. There we go. Now I'm happy. There we go, perfectly flush now. Right, I'll gently just slip the knife in that. I just want to see how it's gonna, where we're at here. Keep that on at the bottom. Okay, and then I can roughly see what, you know, how roughly how much of these featherings that I need to do to get this just right. More than happy with the way it's sitting in the sheath, the cutout. It's just as I wanted it to be. I'm going to need kind of a long one, maybe two little short ones, maybe, but we'll see. I think we definitely need a longish one. Yeah, and I'm happy with that. Not far off now, lads, eh? Okay. Right. I'm going to have to cut you off again for a little minute. I'm going to have to learn how to edit these and maybe do them as a longer one, or you know, I've not got an editing suite or anything yet. I've been looking into all this, so you have to bear with me, lads. I know I'm doing them in clips. It's the only way I know how to do them in the minute. You know, I'll try and edit them into one or maybe a half and a half or something. You know, I'm not very good with computers. I'm okay with my hands. I'm not very good with the computer side of things and stuff like that, so I'm trying my best with this type of stuff, to be honest, this filming and the computers and stuff. You know, I'm not very good with computers at all, so I do apologise for that. I'm trying my best to try and get things right. And okay, so that's where we're at, and I'll cut you off for now. We'll come back and look at getting the rest of this weld system in, and then it'll be a case of gluing it up, put the stitch lines on, stitched up, pop it on. Another customer will be happy, another one out the door, and we'll start on the next one. Okay.